Well, this is the first video of chapter number 5, Ecology, from Csir Pathfinder Part 2 book. Well, so first let's focus on the term ecology. Well, it is a study of relationship of organisms and their environment. The term ecology was first coined by the German biologist Ernest Haeckel in 1869. According to Haeckel's definition, ecology is the study of the natural environment, including the relationship of organisms to one another and to their surroundings. Now, the question is, what does the environment consist of, or what does the surrounding consist of? It consists of abiotic and biotic factors, and these factors which influence the living organism is known as uncalled environmental factors or ecological factors or ecofactors. The abiotic factors include parameters like temperature, sunlight, pH of the water and soil, and many other factors. Whereas the biotic factors include the availability or interaction of the organism with prey, competitors, predators, or parasites, and other microbes. So, first, let us focus on the abiotic factors or the physical environment. It includes soil. Soil is the uppermost weathered layer of the Earth's crust. It is a mixture of the weathered mineral rock particles, organic matter, both living and dead, and water and soil. Soil is a biologically active matrix and home of diverse organisms. The study of soil is called pedology. 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 Now let us focus on the composition of soil. As already said, it is composed of mineral particles, organic matter, both living and non-living, then air and water. The mineral particles in the soil include sand, silt, and clay. The sand, silt, and clay differ in their sizes. Sand is 0.5 to 2 millimeter long. Silt is 0.002 to 0.005 millimeter, and clay is less than 0.002 millimeter. I said about the size. Now, soil texture actually depends on the different relative proportions of sand, silt, and clay in the soil. Now, let us focus on the organic matter present in the soil. It includes the living biomass, and the non-living part includes detritus and humus. Now, what is detritus and humus? Detritus is that part which is not yet decomposed or can be decomposed further, whereas humus is that stable components which has been decomposed and would not be decomposed further. To its properties, when by its properties, humus is an amorphous and a colloidal mixture of complex organic substances. It is made up of humic and non-humic substances. The non-humic substances include carbohydrates, proteins, lignins, lipids, organic acids, etc. Humic substances are stable end products derived from the decomposition of plants and animal residues. Humus consists of about 80 to 90% of the soil organic matter and is characterized as dark-colored amorphous substance. Again, there are three factions of the humic substance. These are fulvic acid, humic acid, and humin. These subdivisions are based on the solubility of each fraction in water at different pH. Humins are not soluble in water at any pH. Humic acid is insoluble in water under acidic conditions but are soluble in water under alkaline conditions. And fulvic acid or fulvic acid is a mixture of weak aliphatic and aromatic organic acids which are soluble in water at all pH. So let me recap it once again. Well, the soil consists of mineral particles, organic matter, air, and water. The mineral particles consist of sand, silt, and clay. And then the organic matter consists of living biomass, detritus, and humus. Then the humus can be subdivided into humic substances and non-humic substances, and the humic substances can again be subdivided into humins, humic acid, and fulvic acid. Soil air. It is the mixture of gases that are present in soil pores that are not filled with water. Then soil water. It contributes up to 30% of the soil volume. The water content in soil depends on the soil type. The water holding capacity of soil is described in terms of filled capacity. It is the ability of the soil to retain water after the process of internal drainage has ceased. It is generally measured about 2 days after an infiltration event. The water holding capacity of a soil depends on the soil texture, structure, organic matter content, and arrangement of soil pores. Soil with high humus content possesses large fill capacity. Now the question is, how does the soil loses the water that is stored in it? Well, there can be two processes. One is by the uptake of plant roots, or the second is by the evaporation from the soil top. The drier the soil becomes, the more tightly the remaining water is retained, and the more difficult it is for the plant roots to extract it. At a certain stage, the uptake of water is not sufficient to meet the plant's needs. The amount of water soil contains at which plants wilt beyond recovery is called the permanent wilting percentage. So the amount of water held between the field capacity and the permanent wilting point is the water available for plants to be uptaken. And again, soil water can be classified into four different types. First of all, hygroscopic water. It is the water present as a thin film around soil particles and remains firmly attached to the soil particles. It is unavailable to the plants. Capillary water is the water present in thin and narrow capillaries formed by soil particles and widely utilized by plants. The water present in soil which can be utilized by plants is called cresard. Cresard. Then gravitational water is the water that percolates deep into the soil due to the gravitational force of the earth that constitutes the groundwater. It is also not available for the plants. And then chemically bound water. It is the water present in the form of hydrated oxides of iron, aluminium, silicon, etc. and is described as chemically bound water, and is again not available to the plants. So the only type of water available to the plants is capillary water, which is present in the thin and narrow capillaries found in the soil particles. And again, to recap, the water present in soil which can be utilized by plants is called cresard, Cresard. Now the other factor is air and atmosphere. Air is the mixture of gases that make the atmosphere. Or we can say atmosphere is the gaseous mass or envelope surrounding a celestial body, especially the one surrounding the earth, and retained under its gravitational force or field. The atmosphere is most dense at the surface of the earth. Again, the atmosphere has been divided into different layers. The layer closest to the earth is known as troposphere. It consists of about 80% of the mass of Earth's atmosphere and contains almost all the water vapor, clouds, and precipitation that occur. Troposphere varies from altitude of 8 to 18 kilometers depending on latitude and seasons. At the poles, it extends up to 8 kilometers, and at the equator, it extends up to 18 kilometers. In troposphere, temperature generally decreases with increase in altitude, which is with an average of about 6.5 degrees Celsius per kilometer. This is also called lapse rate. The zone that forms the boundary between the troposphere and the stratosphere, that is the next layer, is called tropopause. Well, stratosphere can go up to 50 kilometers. A thin ozone layer is present at a height of about 15 to 30 kilometers. Troposphere and stratosphere together account for about 99.9% of the mass of the atmosphere. The troposphere and the stratosphere are collectively called the lower atmosphere, and the top of the troposphere that forms the boundary to the mesosphere, that is the next layer, is called stratopause. In stratosphere, with increase in altitude, there is actually an increase in temperature, that is, it gets warmer. The mesosphere starts from about 50 kilometers above the Earth's surface and goes up to 85 kilometers. Again, as we go up, the temperature gets cooler, or temperature decreases. The top of the mesosphere is the coldest part of the Earth's atmosphere, where the temperature is around minus 90 degrees Celsius. And above that, there is the menopause, and then after that, there lies thermosphere. It starts from about 85 kilometers above the Earth to and continues to around 600 kilometers above the Earth. Here in thermosphere, the temperature rises continuously and goes up to or even beyond 1000 degrees Celsius. Within the thermosphere, there is a relatively dense band of charged particles called ionosphere. Above the thermosphere, there is exosphere. Well, the boundary between these two is called thermopause, and this exosphere can extend up to 10,000 kilometers. The next factor is light. It is the electromagnetic radiation and represents that part of the electromagnetic spectrum which we can see, that is of wavelength around 400 to 700 nanometers. Visible light is also called photosynthetically active radiation, in bracket PAR as abbreviation. Because photosynthetic organisms generally perform photosynthesis in this region of the electromagnetic spectrum. UV or ultraviolet radiation is that part of the electromagnetic radiation which consists of the wavelength 100 nanometer to 400 nanometer. Again, depending on the wavelengths, the UV radiation can be subdivided into UVC, UVB, and UVA. UVC consists of wavelengths from 100 to 280 nanometers, UVB from 280 to 320 nanometers, and UVA from 320 to 400 nanometers. The main source of light on Earth is the Sun, and the amount and duration of solar radiation intercepted at any point on the Earth's surface varies markedly with latitude. And the two factors that influence this variation are, firstly, the length of daylight, and secondly, at higher altitudes, radiation hits the Earth's surface at a smaller angle, that is, the sunlight spreads over a larger area, so the same energy falls over a long area or over a larger area. Plus, while the radiation comes, it penetrates the atmosphere at a smaller angle, so it penetrates a deeper layer of or a larger layer of air. So in this process, more particles, since there are more, it encounters more particles in the atmosphere, so more is reflected back into the space, making the sunlight less intense. The sunlight is the primary source of energy for ecosystems. It is captured by plants through photosynthesis, and its energy is stored in the chemical bonds of organic compounds. Sunlight not only serves as the energy source for photosynthesis, but also regulates various growth and developmental processes from seed germination to fruit development. Now, the certain factors of light that influence, or the certain characteristics of light that influence the photosynthesis and the growth and the developmental patterns of plants include quality of light, that is the wavelength of the light coming, then the quantity of light or the intensity of the light, and the duration of the light of the photoperiod. Now let's focus on the quality of light. In plants, the photosynthesis occurs in the blue and red light. In terrestrial ecosystem, the quality of light does not change, but in aquatic ecosystem, the quality of light is a limiting factor as it is absorbed. Red light is absorbed more and blue light is absorbed less by water. So the blue light can penetrate deeper into the water. Now let's focus on the light and intensity. The intensity of light that reaches the earth varies along with the latitude and also with the season of the year and the time of the day. Plants can be subdivided into two groups: shade tolerant plants and shade intolerant plants. Then the other factor, that is the light duration, affects the flowering and fruiting of certain plants. Plants use photoreceptors like photochrome and cryptochrome to sense photoperiod, which then they take as signals for their growth and development. Now the next parameter is temperature. It is the degree of hotness or coldness of the environment or of a substance, but here we consider the environment. So the temperature on the Earth's surface varies from place to place, from time to time, from season to season, and that is it. And then it is actually related to the duration and intensity of solar radiation, and again to the precipitation happening at that area. Well, the fact is that in that affect or factors along with which temperatures vary include latitude, altitude, topography, vegetation, and others. Temperature is one of the three major influences on global patterns of plant growth, and the other two are sunlight and water. On the basis of temperature, world's vegetation has been divided into classes. These are megatherms, mesotherms, microtherms, and hekistotherms. Megatherms are the place where high temperature prevails throughout the year, and here the dominant vegetation is tropical rainforest. In mesotherms are those places where high temperature alternates with low temperature, and the dominant vegetation is tropical deciduous forest. And microtherms are places where the temperature is low, and that the prevalent temperature is low, and vegetation is a mixture of coniferous tree or forest. And then there's hekistotherms, which consist of very low temperatures, and here the vegetation includes, or here the dominant vegetation type vegetation is alpine vegetation. The next factor is precipitation. In meteorological terms, precipitation is any product of the condensation of atmospheric water vapor that falls under gravity. It includes rain, snow, sleet, hail. When air rises, it cools, and the moisture in it condenses out as clouds, which eventually produce precipitation. In areas of high pressure, air is descending, the atmosphere is stable, so the skies are usually clear and precipitation is rare. The precipitation is highest in the region of equator and declines as one moves north or south, that is farther away from the equator. The decline, however, is not continuous. Thus, rainfall is highest in around the equator and low, or precipitation is low around the polar regions. So that is for today, and see you on the next video.